Christian, this is just our post-episode recap. And we kind of just talk about what we just talked about in the episode, which was a lot of fun. I learned so much about Clara Belle Williams, and kind of going into these episodes, like I Google, but I try not to because I like learning during the episode. But you want to go ahead and tell us real quick in a couple sentences what we just talked about.
So what we talked about today was the Clara Belle Williams documentary that I produced. It took about a year and a half, and it's all about her children, and stories from her great-grandchildren and great-great-granddaughter about her life, her accomplishments, and all the things that they've done in their lives.
I think one of the things that I really, as we were talking about this and just hearing, she died at 108. She's college educated 3 times. She has 3 degrees. Her perseverance. She was the first African American to get a degree at New Mexico State University, man or woman. And so I think of like there's always a first, but there's never a last. And so as a Hispanic woman, like she's in my community, she had an impact on me being able to be college educated, right? Like, again, there's always a first, but there's never a last. She was so inspirational, and she went through so many terrible things, but she still did it.
She persevered. She didn't let the things that were happening at the time take her down, and she was able to accomplish that while still being a mother, working a full-time job and taking care of her family. And it's just a very inspirational story that I hope a lot of people get to watch and listen to this podcast and get the little more tidbits about her life.
Hi everyone, and welcome to the Doña Ana County Preserving History and Democracy podcast. My name is Caroline Zamora, and I'm the Chief Deputy County Clerk.
And I'm Cynthia Mendoza, Communications Coordinator.
This podcast is dedicated to the history and to the elections of Doña Ana County.
We'll also be highlighting other local officials of Doña Ana County.
Thank you for joining us today.
Hello and welcome to the Doña Ana County podcast, Preserving History and Democracy. I'm Cynthia Mendoza.
And I'm Caroline Zamora.
And I'm Bernadine Caporal.
And today we have a very special guest. We have Christian Valle. He is a journalist, a production manager, director, and editor with KRWG Public Media. He wears many hats and does it all. So welcome, Christian. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course.
All right. So what I'm really excited about this podcast is because we really wanted to honor Clara Belle Williams, especially during Black History Month.
Right.
So again, we want to say just thank you so much for coming and sharing your experience regarding her and her contributions to the university, to our county, to the country. And so I know, Cynthia, you saw the documentary, or was it Bern who saw the documentary?
I saw the
Bern, yeah.
Bern, what did you think? I want to hear all about it.
Well, it was laid out in a very beautiful way visually. There was a lot of photos and old documents from that time period, and it just laid out her life in a way that you were just in awe of this woman. It's I'll leave the details to Christian, but it was about 20 minutes, I want to say.
27 minutes.
27 minutes, and packed a lot in. And it was somebody that I, have a soft spot for Black History Month. So I really, really wanted to get you here today to talk about her again. And I think we'll put a link at the end of the podcast for the documentary. We can do that because it was very interesting to me.
Also, if you're listening to this and you're like, how do I know that name? How do I know that name? And you were a student at New Mexico State, there's a building that's named Clara Belle Williams. I think I took all my English classes in that building. So, but I want to let Christian talk. So go ahead. First of all, do you want to go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit how you came to produce the documentary?
Sure. So my name is Christian Valle. I am originally from El Paso, Texas, from the east side. Grew up there for 18 years, and then when I decided to go to college, I decided to come to New Mexico State University and fell in love with the campus, and got my degree there in journalism and mass communications in May of 2005. And at the time when I was there, I also worked at KRWG as a student. So I worked there for a few years, and after I graduated, couldn't find a job. and some things that changed at the station, and they were like, yeah, we're going to be doing more television productions. And then I was like, well, I know every piece of equipment, I know everything there. Maybe you guys should hire me up. So I worked there temporary for a year, and then after that year, they hired me full time. So now I've been there 18 years at KRWG Public Media.
Time.
So I've worked my way all the way up from just a part-time employee, temporary, to now the production manager at the station. So
Awesome.
So you've done it all.
yeah. And so the documentary, I was presented this opportunity in 2022 to produce a half-hour documentary on any subject I wanted. And I had a few ideas of things I wanted to do, but the top of my list was Clara Belle Williams. Walking around campus, you always see the names of buildings, Breland Hall, Milton Hall. There's all these names of buildings, and you're always wondering what's the story behind, each of these. And, I had taken classes in the English building, and then when I went to school, they had changed it to Clara Belle Williams Hall. And, I just started doing some research, and I only found like 3 sentences that, she got to take. When she came to school here, she sat outside the classroom for her classes, and that was the only story that anybody was telling. And I started thinking to myself, there's got to be more to this story. So as I presented that to to my supervisors, they said, yeah, you should pursue this and see what you can get. And sure enough, it opened up a huge world of stories of not just her, but her sons, her grandchildren, and people that just were influenced by her story and all her accomplishments. So yeah, it took me over a year and a half to put all that together, but it was a team effort. It wasn't just me. The other senior TV producers at the time helped me put that together, and like I said, we aired it on in August of 2023. So that was just a huge undertaking, but it's one of my greatest accomplishments so far at the station.
Nice. How fun to be like, look, it's almost like having a baby, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it took me a year to get this done, and finally it's here.
Yeah, that's awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about who Clara Belle Williams was and a little bit about her story?
Sure. So Clara Belle Williams was born in LaGrange, Texas, in 1885. So that was, quite a bit ago, kind of thing. And she grew up in Plum, Texas. So if you look at the map, they're very close to each other. And in 1901, by the age of 15, she was attending Prairie View Normal Independent College, which is now Prairie View A&M. And she got a degree there already. So that's probably one of the biggest things that people always just assume is that when she got her degree here, that was her first degree. This was actually her second and third degree. She graduated in 1905 from there with a certificate in domestic arts at the time. And then later on, she became the head of the institution of the sewing department. So
I'm assuming domestic arts was kind of like, I don't know, like fax
housewife,
now,
okay.
or home ec.
home ec, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think now they call it fax.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. That's interesting.
Family and Consumer Sciences.
Oh, that makes sense.
Okay. And then, part of the stories I wasn't able to tell all the stories. So it was interesting to hear from different, families and other people that what she was doing. And, she met her husband, but then they weren't able to be together for 10 years. So they were corresponding with each other by mail for 10 years. And then after that 10 years, then they finally got married because they were trying to keep all their brothers and sisters together, fed, and going to school and everything. Because education was a big part of not only her family, but his family as well, kind of thing. So they were just trying to work and trying to get all their family educated. And that's one of the big things that I was trying to, push through that documentary, is that it was just very important to them. And to people in that area, kind of thing, because you really don't hear about the Black history, that type of stuff, and so I just want to make sure that came across, kind of thing. And then in 1924, they were married and they moved to El Paso, so they had a place there. Then they started having children, and then Jasper Williams, the husband, had a pharmacy. So again, very educated, very they were doing very well. And then unfortunately, there was a fire that took down the pharmacy, kind of thing.
No.
So there was things that were just taking back people at that time. So they decided, you know what, maybe we should start moving on. Let's just find something else. They had moved to Valle, and then later on moved to Las Cruces. And again, at the time, you're hitting segregation. So then, students were being separated, and then they needed teachers, black teachers, to be teaching the African American students. So, she became part of that movement and trying to help students be taught, teaching her own children and then the few other children in the area at the time. And like that happened at Phillips Chapel, and then her husband became the principal, kind of thing of the school. So it was just a family thing. Phillips Chapel still exists here, and it's funny because I went to the house they purchased, and then going around the Mesquite area, there's also it's just right down the street, Phillips Chapel. So everything was really close by. So it was really neat to kind of see the steps kind of where she took and the path she probably walked to kind of get from point A to point B, kind of thing.
This is so interesting because my mom grew up in that district, and she's mentioned the Williams family several times, and now I'm like, was this like the Clara Belle Williams family? Because I'm like so interested. Now we're gonna find that word.
Right.
We're gonna find it
all
in our
the
docs.
information.
We got
Yes.
it.
So and then part of the documentary, I didn't get to go too deep into it, but there was a part where that I got to interview the people that are living in that house that Clara Belle Williams once owned, and they know the memories and stories of her, and then they have their own stories as well. So it was real interesting to hear that perspective and hear like how the house was and what additions they had made, and like the family that lived there and the family that lives there now, and the struggles they had, and the very similar path and a lot of parallels I keep finding in all these stories. So it was very interesting. And then so around 1928, Clara Belle Williams then enrolled at New Mexico College of Agriculture and Mechanic Arts at the time. Now it's called New Mexico State University. And again, because that's where the story, develops, where, she was told that she had to be outside the classroom in order to take her classes. It was very unfortunate at the time. Of course, that was the mindset at the time. But again, the biggest part, she persevered. She didn't let that bother her. She didn't let that take away, from her accomplishment, what she was trying to do, kind of thing. And like I said, mind you, she had already gone to college. So she's already, about 42 years old. She has 3 children. And then another story that I didn't get to tell was that her third son was actually born club-footed. And so they had to take him to a lot of surgery to try to get that corrected. And then part of my research is that I found that they're thinking that because of him going to the doctor so many times, they got interested in being doctors themselves. And one thing he had said was, if I want to grow up to become a doctor so that other children don't have to go through this kind of thing. And he actually ended up becoming a physician. He was the first in the family to become a doctor, and his brothers fell in suit, and they did as well. So even though he was the youngest, he became the first physician in the family. And like I said, all the other ones also became physicians.
That's amazing. So she was told that she had to sit outside of the classroom. She like not even the back of the classroom. She had to be outside the classroom.
She had to be outside the classroom, yeah. And if you watch the documentary, there's another picture of another gentleman at a different school that had go through the same thing. Of course, there's no pictures of Clara Belle, but I wanted to include that at the time just to show that was happening at other universities across the country, kind of thing. It just was, just a real unfortunate thing. But it was but there are other stories like that where they were just forced to sit outside.
I mean, just the amazing like strength and perseverance of.
Yeah.
And she's like, all right, I'll sit outside the classroom. Like, I'm still going to get my
I
degree.
think education was just, it seemed like it was that important to her. Where she was like, I don't
Absolutely.
care if I have to be, outside the classroom. I'm gonna.
I remember that
to
image
my
from the
class.
documentary of the student outside the
Yeah.
classroom. And it was just such a powerful statement of the time that it was.
Yeah.
Definitely
At
was.
times.
So yeah, and like I said, she didn't let it bother her, and then also she was taking classes during the summer because during the regular season she was being a teacher. She was teaching full time, so she was still working full time. She was a mother, and then she was taking care the family household, and then in the summer she was getting her degree, like I said, at Mexico State University. So that's why in 1937 then she finally graduated from New Mexico State University as the first African American to do it, and she got a degree in English and in math.
Wow.
And And then again, you hit another sad story that they had canceled graduation that year, and because the students at the time they were told, and I heard this from various stories, that they didn't want to walk in front of or behind an African American person.
Oh my
So
gosh.
sad.
So yeah, she didn't get to walk, and then she had to just go to the registrar's office and just pick up a degree from a window, kind of thing. So she did all that work, and then to come back and be like, you know what, we're not gonna even have graduation. It was just like it just breaks your heart.
I mean, she got the best revenge, though. She has a whole building named after her now.
Right.
Right? I do love that. So what do we know about, I guess kind of a little bit, do you know anything else about maybe their family at that time? Like, of course, they were both teachers.
Mm-hmm.
All their kids, it sounds like several of their children went on to become physicians.
Yes.
Do we know anything else?
They did. I mean, they they all went to school here. They all grew up here in Las Cruces, and I think only one went to New Mexico State University. I'm not 100% sure, but they all went to other universities, and then they all got their medical degrees, and then they all were accomplished physicians. They had done some amazing work. There was another story I didn't include where in Chicago a baby had gotten shot, and that was the first time it was still in the womb, and so they had to go inside the womb and get the bullet out while the baby was still in the womb, kind of thing. And it was like the first that they had ever done anything like that while the baby was still there, and the baby survived.
Wow.
And it was one of their children did the surgery?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
So yeah, there was a lot of first and things that they had done that was just amazing work at the Williams Clinic in Chicago, Illinois.
The Williams Clinic, they have their own clinic in Chicago.
Incredible.
Yeah, they did. So yeah, they existed for quite a few years, and I think it closed down around 1994-ish, kind of thing. So, but yeah, like I said, they all three accomplished a lot. Again, and if you watch the documentary, there's an unfortunate story with one of the sons. He had been a pilot. He had gone. He was flying around a lot, and he was with his son and his son's fiance, and then his wife, and they were flying somewhere. And then on the way back, the wife got sick, and she goes, "Oh, I'm just gonna take a regular airline." And then the three of them, the son, his son, and the fiance flew, and then the plane crashed an hour later, kind of thing. So yeah, it was just real unfortunate, kind of thing. So then yeah, to hear that was kind of just. It was just really sad, and I think that was around the 1980s kind of thing where that happened. One, I think, retired eventually here in Las Cruces, and I know he passed away, but all three sons have now passed, kind of thing. So, like I said, getting the story from the grandsons and a great granddaughter, that was just really amazing to hear all their stories about Clara Belle, but hearing also all the family tragedy as well. It's just a lot to handle, but it was just one that had to be told.
How old did she live to be?
So, surprisingly enough, Clara Belle got to live to be 108 years old.
Holy
Wow.
smokes, good for her.
That's incredible.
And, and talking to her grandson, she had worked, she retired from New Mexico State at the Department of Education. She had worked here for a number of years, and she even got an award for it. And then she left to Chicago to actually work in the Williams Clinic. So after she retired from here, she moved to Chicago to be with her family, and she worked as a clerk. So there was also funny stories of, she's already an older lady working, talking to people. She was giving advice to couples as they come in, whether they wanted it or not. And the son was telling me like she had to take 2 buses to even get to where this Willie clinic where she lived, and she just kept going, kind of thing. And she instilled in her family, grandkids, just keep getting your education, It's the most important thing. And there's a good story in the documentary I want people to watch that they tell it great about what she did for all her grandchildren. If you get a chance to watch it, it's very good. And yeah, like I said, she worked in that office for quite a few years, and like I said, I think up till like almost 100 years old, and then she finally was like, okay, I'm just gonna stay home and stuff.
Time to retire.
Yeah.
And then she retired for 8 years.
And then yeah, she did. Like I said, it was a wonderful life, and and like I said, she lives in Chicago. She lived by herself. She had upstairs too, so like she was still, keeping it going all those years. But yeah, 108 years old. I can't imagine.
So
Awesome.
when was Clara Belle Williams building named Clara Belle Williams? Did she get to like come to the naming?
No, so actually the building was named on a ceremony February 13th, 2005. And I was actually going to school during that time, and I do kind of remember seeing, some things that happened about that. But some family that were interviewed in the documentary were there at the time. So, but yeah, it was very good for the university. Like I said, they had actually named a few years earlier. Um, they named the street after her. So there's a Williams uh, street on campus that was actually named after her. And then, like I said, in 2005, there was a building named after her. And then there's also a scholarship in her name as well, kind of thing. So yeah, like I said, the university, I think, has tried to make some corrections to what they did in the past. And like I said, those few things, I think, have helped.
I was just going to ask you, was there ever an apology? I mean, the building is an action.
Yeah.
But was there ever a verbal apology?
I don't know for sure, but I know in 1980 they had brought her in, and mind you, she was 95 at the time, and they honored her with an honorary law degree. So, and then her and her family, a lot came in. There's documentary in the documentary. There's pictures of all of them, and I wish the university had saved the speech because it would have been nice to have heard what she had said. But funny enough, when she first graduated, there was no ceremony, but in 1980, they honored her, and then she got to walk for the first time,
Wow.
with everybody and stuff.
Oh, that warms my heart.
Awesome.
So, she finally got to walk, and they honored her, they gave her that degree, and it was a great moment for her. They also interviewed her for about an hour and a half, some other department on campus during that time. So, she talks about her family. She talks about, all that, a bunch of stuff that we weren't able to cover in the documentary. And she even talks about, her family, her lineage, her grandpa, him being a slave, then getting the Williams name. Like, it's really incredible, all the other side stories that leads up to this. But yeah, like I said, the university, I don't know if they formally apologized, but at least they gave her the honorary degree, and like I said, in 1980, and like I said, named the street after her, and then now they've named the English building
Very
after
nice.
her.
That's awesome.
Very nice.
Why do you think education was so important to her, and why did she insist that her sons, also get an education?
you know Looking back at all of it, I think it was just instilled in her, from the very beginning. In that documentary, in the interview they did in 1980 with her, she had talked about her grandpa even saying, you're going to be a teacher, you're going to be an educator, like, you're just going to keep going. And like, I guess that just kind of instilled in her as a child. And, I think they just kind of pushed her, like, get your education, get going, take advantage of everything you can. And I think she really did. She really accomplished that, and then some. Because like I said, she had already graduated at one university, was going to school at a second one while teaching students here. And like sure, I'm sure there's tons of people in town that were, that was her that were her, her teacher was her, and they learned a lot from her, kind of thing. And then her sons also become physicians, and I'm sure they taught a lot of people what they knew, kind of thing. So I just felt like they were just paying it forward just as much as she did, and they kept it going. But just I think it was at the right time, because like I said, during the time of segregation, they needed somebody to teach, and she was educated. She knew what she could do, and like I said, I think she kept that going, kind of thing, because she saw there was a need for students here to be taught. She did teach a little bit in Vado, and that was a huge, undertaking, because she was living here in Las Cruces and having to take a bus to Vado at the time. And mind you, like, we don't have as good highway systems as we do now, kind of thing. And still having also go through the struggle of, there was a white person on the bus, they would have to wait for that person to leave and then get another bus just for them, kind of thing. So times that they would be late for themselves to go to school and teach, because they had to wait for their own bus to come through and pick them up. So like I said, they had a lot of struggles, but they made it work. And like I said, they taught in Vado for a year, and then they finally got an opportunity to teach in Las Cruces, and then went with that, kind of thing. But yeah, I guess I think education's always just been in their family.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And amazing in 4 generations,
Yeah.
you think about what happened in those 4 generations, her grandfather being a slave,
Right.
um, and then what her parents probably had to go through, and then what she went through,
Yeah.
but becoming college educated 3 times, and then her kids becoming physicians and opening a clinic and doing good things.
It's incredible.
It is incredible. Like, I'm loving like her whole story.
Me too.
And also I hear like not just, I mean, all the good and the bad in it, like also how hard it was. I'm sure there were days that were not easy,
Right.
how difficult it was, how painful, but that she just persevered and she's like, all right, this is life. We get on and we do it. And she did it. What a fun story.
Do you think she's changed education for African Americans since the time she was going to school? And how do you think she did that?
I don't know if she changed it, but she definitely set an example,
Right.
I think, for a lot of people here. One of the interviews I had in the documentary was with Dr. Bobby Green. She's the president
I
of
love
the...
Bobby Green.
Right? She's so great. She's president of the Doña Ana County NAACP, and, she had her own stories. One question I'd ask people in the documentary that I didn't put too much of is if they had faced discrimination, and if they had faced the discrimination that Clara Belle Williams had, how would you have reacted? And a lot of people had a lot of, mixed reactions. They probably would have been upset, yelling, been screaming at people. And, but like I said, Clara Belle Williams, she just seemed like this very cool, calm, collected lady. And she didn't let it bother her. She wanted to do what she did. She accomplished it. And like I said, and for Bobby Green, she said that Clara Belle Williams was that trailblazer because she set the example, like, hey, you can come here, you can do this. And she said in her own struggles, she was getting her master's degree, and she said that at the time at her work, Bobby, she had said, oh, somebody else was trying to get, a master's degree, and at that work, they would pay for your education. Well, her coworker, who happened to be white, he got his paid, but then when she applied, they wouldn't pay for her. So she had to pay out of her own pocket, and they said, well, no, you can't do that. And she goes, no, I'm going to do my own thing. So she went and did her own, and she got her own degree on her own time, even though the company, didn't want to pay for that. So, again, seeing that Clara Belle Williams, that perseverance, being inspired by her, I think just really has motivated a lot of women, a lot of African Americans to be like, you know what, let's follow in those same footsteps and just accomplish what we want to do without compromising ourselves.
It's funny how a flaw like stubbornness can become such an asset like perseverance.
Exactly. Yeah. I love it. I think she also set an example not only for, African American people, but as a mom to go back to school and, to work and do all that. It's never too late to go get an education. And I love that she set an example in that way as well. It's incredible.
I think there's something to seeing your parents
Yeah.
going and getting an education.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Because when I was like in high school, my dad went back to school and got like his paralegal degree.
Oh, wow.
And so I don't, like, my parents never pushed me to go to school. Like, they never said, you must go to college. But there's something of actually seeing them do it.
They led by example.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And so I think of like Clara Belle Williams, of how many people saw her do it, how many of her own students,
Yeah.
like the effect that she had that she probably didn't even know.
It's inspiring. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
And then I think just her impact on NMSU, like, I don't know if there was an apology, maybe, we don't know.
Hope so.
I hope so. But I think I know 2 people now, Clara Belle Williams and John Hernandez, who have buildings named after them.
Oh, cool.
At NMSU. And of course, John was a Hispanic man. And he was an engineer. And so I feel like NMSU is trying to right some wrongs, and I hope she got an apology. If not, she got a building named after her. It was really cool.
And a street name, right? So,
And a street and an honorary degree.
yeah, she's doing well.
Now, I wanted to ask you about the house that she lives in, because I found the deed to the house in her vault. And there's another family that lives there, and I found an article about how they went through the process to become a historic site.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so like I said, I met Alice Chavez Villa, and she's the daughter of the person that's living in the house now, and very lovely lady. Got to meet her and then her daughter. Her daughter's also in the documentary, Tori Woods, and they got. And yeah, I got to see the house that Clara Belle Williams purchased in Las Cruces, lived in for a number of years, and it was it's quite a amazing place to piece of history kind of thing. She had pieced together a lot of historical documents and got that put onto the house onto the historic records. So it's it's a good house to keep. And then, like I said, her own family has kept it up. If you ever drive down Mesquite Street, it's the one with the statues in front. There's a tiger. There's a buffalo.
I know
There's
exactly which one. Got it.
so that
I'm
house.
gonna go drive around, see if I can find it.
You can't miss it, kind of thing. If you're driving around, you'll definitely know which house it is. And then there's a good story with that about her, Alice Chavez Villa's dad, and how he went and he grew up in the area, was a farmer as well, and did a lot of things in the community. Again, like I almost call it like you were talking about that Clara Belle Williams effect of like his influence, him growing up here, and then there's a few stories about him as well. And then he had served his country in one of the military services. I can't remember which one, but and he had a really great story. I wish again I could have told a lot more, because you went to really in depth with his life and the house and what he accomplished. And like I said, then he went out and he bought all these statues for the house that the wife just was happy with, but like didn't want, like, don't get another one out, and then another one would show up, kind of thing. So but I think a lot of people in the neighborhood like seeing that kind of thing, and they look pretty cool. So if you go by that house on Mesquite and Las Cruces, it's a sight to see, kind of thing. You should give it a drive by, kind of thing.
Yeah, I love that. What else do we know about the house burn?
There were kind of parallels between the family that bought the house in '74 and Clara Belle Williams' family. There was I don't. Do you remember? I read an article a while ago.
Like I said, like I said, the farming, because like I said, Jasper Williams, the Clara Belle Williams' husband, also, they had a homestead, so then they were also growing farms as well. Like another side story was like Bobby Green. Like when I talked to her, she grew up on a farm as well too. So like is that farming here, in the Mesilla Valley community, that was a big thing. The Homestead Act helped give people here at the time land so they can grow things and make some money, and keep their food going, keep the economy going. So because there was out here in the West, there was just so much land to be given out, kind of thing, and they just needed, also being desert, they wanted to grow some stuff, so that a lot of families got a lot of opportunities to grow. And I think, and like I said, there were just a lot of farming community families here, kind of thing, that they just took advantage of that, and then they worked on other farms. But like I said, yeah, you do meet a lot of people that just that family farm history is ingrained in them.
And here's another thing I just browsed over. The daughter Tori is biracial, so she felt this connection to Clara Belle Williams too, because of her ethnicity. Yeah, and she says, the mom of Tori says, it gives her a piece of her that I can't give her, as I'm Hispanic, and while she grew up culturally Hispanic, she looks African American. It's just a piece of her history that I think really has brought it home to her in a special way, feeling even more connected. So a lot of parallels
cool.
between the two families.
Love that.
Yeah.
Now the church, we talked about the church, right? What's it called again?
Phillips Chapel.
Phillips Chapel. That's one of the oldest African American churches in the state, isn't it? Or am I thinking of another one?
I don't know 100%.
Okay. We'll have to find that out.
Yeah.
Okay,
Future broadcast.
yes.
But I mean, Phillips Chapel, it's, they talk about it, and when I went there to go talk to, the pastor that's there now, it's a very small building. It only has like 4 pews, about, 5 or 6 seats each. It's not a very big building. And when I went there to see that part of it, of course, has been restored after so many years. But again, to walk in those footsteps where Clara Belle Williams, they were there, they were teaching, being with the family, teaching the students there. It's just amazing how much was accomplished in such a little space. It's just a really really small chapel, and it's really easy to miss, kind of thing. But yeah, like I said, in the documentary, there's some footage of that.
I pass by it all the time, so I know exactly where it is and which one it is. But yeah, it's tiny, and it's still people still go to church there.
Yes.
It's still a living, breathing chapel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. Now, one of the podcasts we had done a while ago was called Blackdom.
Okay.
And I know our guest spoke about Vado being
Founded by
right.
African
The
Americans.
Boyers.
African
The
American.
Boyer family.
The Boyer.
Right. So here we have her working in Vado.
Mm-hmm.
And were there not that many African Americans here in Cruces at the time?
I don't think there was. I think there was a few families, but not a whole lot.
Okay.
So, anything else that you want our listeners to know about Clara Belle Williams, about the story making process? Anything you learned?
I mean, it was quite a long process. Like I said, a year and a half to get that done. Because I had helped on a previous documentary with the former production manager on Ralph Willis Goddard, who, if you get a chance to watch that, it's very good as well. So, kind of like a side story, because probably Clara Belle Williams and Ralph Willis Goddard were at New Mexico State University probably at the same time. So Ralph Willis Goddard was from Worcester, Massachusetts, and grew up there, and he came to Mexico State University to be the dean of electrical engineering, and at the time he was one of his side businesses, or things he'd like to do, was radio, and so he created the first radio station on the Mexico State University campus. So it's called KOB at the time. Now KOB is up in Albuquerque. It's a TV station, radio station. But at the time he had created it here, and it's just a very good story. And like I said, part of the process of how I got to do Clara Belle Williams is helping, the other production manager, Joe Widmer, at the time. He was producing that documentary, so I got to be part of that, helping him build like I said, the Ralph Willis Goddard documentary. One thing about us at the station, so the station ran for a long time, and then unfortunately, Ralph Willis Goddard passed away, and then the station went dead, and then they bought the parts and then sold it to Albuquerque, and then in the 60s, when NPR started building up, the station needed some call letters. Most of the time, call letters are just given by the FCC. You're just given the 4 letters. And at the time, I don't know all the history of it. I haven't done all the research yet, but the station had a petition to give us the call letters KRWG. And the reason we wanted that was to honor Ralph Willis Goddard, RWG, his initials.
Okay, I love
So,
that.
so anybody that listens to KRWG TV or radio, that's our call letters are named after the founder of the first radio station in Mexico. And he had a really big influence. And at one time, it was the largest radio station west of the Mississippi. It was the strongest signal out, so a lot of people could reach the signal. But yeah, it's a very good story. Also, another good documentary that you can watch on KRWG.org. There's also the PBS app. If you look under KRWG specials, those 2 documentaries are there, kind of thing, and they're about half an hour, so it's an easy watch if you're just gonna have lunch in your office or something one day and you want to learn more about history of KRWG or Clara Belle Williams. Just take a gander and listen to that. But so yeah,
We love KRWG here because we run elections, and we appreciate public media and everything that public media does, and being a news source, an accurate news source.
mm-hmm.
So we do love KRWG here.
Oh, that's great to hear.
Yeah.
We always love hearing about our friends.
Yeah, I've actually done some of when I do last spring or summer, I did the drive when you all do the big radio drive.
Oh, the radio drive.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was on with Kat Sanchez and Casey Counts.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I did I did a couple hours, asking folks for donations to KRWG. That was fun.
Cool.
It was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
But
So, personally,
Mm-hmm.
what did Clara Belle Williams teach you?
Clara Belle Williams taught me, stay cool when things are given to you that you don't agree with. Don't react right away, because that's what they want you to do, and to really persevere. Just keep achieving what you want to do, and you'll get there, kind of things. Like seeing her example, seeing her produce and create and do the things she did was just so inspirational that makes me feel like I can do things too, that when faced with adversity, that I can get through. And if she can get through it, then I can get through. And the stuff that I'm going through is not half of what she went through, kind of thing. So
Perspective.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so I just want to know everybody know, like, yeah, you can always achieve it if you just keep to it, kind of thing. Because, and like I said, in my own life, I just kept persevering. I never thought I'd be production manager. I thought I'd be always in that same position, never get up. But that opportunity came, and I succeeded, and here I am. And like I said, just keep achieving your goals and keep working hard at it.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I've loved this story.
Me
Vern,
too.
It's a good one.
it is. I know
It's
she
such
keeps
great
bringing us
stories.
such great
Thank you,
stuff.
Vern.
I love this.
Well, many, many thanks to you.
Yes,
for coming.
thank you.
Yes,
Thank you for
thank you.
joining us. And
Oh, you're welcome.
yeah,
I'm so
such a
glad
great
I
story.
popped out of that bazaar and saw his documentary. Like, just circumstances.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm a big advocate for equal rights, and
Yeah.
particular Black History Month means a lot to me personally. So I had to see that documentary. I just, of all the things, we got to pick one thing to do, and that was mine. So
Oh, awesome.
I'm so glad I saw it, and thank you for producing it,
You're welcome.
and thank you for coming today.
Thank you for having me.
appreciate
Appreciate it.
well, I guess that's all we have for today. This was the Preserving History and Democracy podcast. I want to say thank you. I am the Chief Deputy County Clerk, Caroline Zamora. I want to say thank you to our Communications Coordinator, Cynthia Mendoza, also to our researcher, Bern Caporal, and behind camera, and our producer, Jacob Slaughter. If you want to message us or send us any feedback, you can do that with DAC Clerk. You can send that to dacclerk@donianacounty.org. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.